Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick, talking about episodes 2 and 3 of The Deuce, Matt, Brett, Ben, Alonso. So yeah, episode 1 was like, wait, I thought this was a show about porn, but now it's a show about porn. Hooray!
Oh.
Slowly
Finally,
creeping
a show
there,
about porn on HBO.
Well, is anybody else watching episodes?
No. You know, I saw your tweet last night and it reminded me the episodes, but I was on Roku and I couldn't activate my Showtime account somehow. But I'll be catching up.
Anyway, this season, like, you know, Matt LeBlanc is back on a career high, and he can do anything he wants, and so he's trying to come up with a show with the British characters, and the concept that he can't get away from is a show called Whores. And I was just like, well, this is technically Whores, but you know, but it's not.
It is
Whores.
We want to recap very briefly episode 2 with a couple of things, because we're doing 2 and 3 here, but we don't want to get bogged down. And I want to talk about episode 3 because it was the breakthrough moment for me.
Sure.
It was where I thought, oh, I love this show.
Yeah.
Right now I love the show. Yeah. I didn't love the pilot. I struggled with it. I knew it was good, right? And then I liked episode 2 better, because it started to take shape. But episode 3 was like, okay, this show. And very little happened in episode 3, which is my kind of show.
Sure.
Right. This is where I didn't get with Tremmy.
That's right.
Episode 3, I was like, I can't. Everyone loves music too much.
Episode 2 brought me in, if only for those moments, both for the good brother is
Vincent.
Vinny and Candy both having that moment,
right, that's
you know, of like, oh wait, there's a thing happening and I can figure out how to make this work and how to make money out of it. And like, you know, I liked in both of those characters watching those tumblers fall into place behind their eyes.
What was Vincent's episode 2 tumbler?
The paychecks.
The paychecks, right? So his was not pornography related.
No, it was the paycheck.
Okay, right. Okay, so episode 2 we had Vincent getting the bar.
Yes.
Right, and we had the girl Margarita Levieva or Abby.
Abby fails out of school,
or doesn't. She doesn't really fail out of school. She just tells her. She just quits
by attrition.
Right. Because she's obviously incredibly smart. And then they killed the John. CC
and fake cop.
And what's her name?
CC
and Emily Mead.
Lori.
Lori.
Right. CC and Lori kill the John. It was the right thing to do.
Right.
It was definitely going to kill her. Maggie Gyllenhaal, Candy shot the movie.
Yes.
Shot the picture.
And learned what a fill light was.
Right, she learned what a fill light was. Then Larry and Darlene, I thought this was interesting because Darlene is just about the most likable character in the history of television. And I thought Larry, because he was so kind of jovial and jocular in episode 1, was going to be the good pimp. But I don't think so.
He stole a bitch's mind, and that bitch is Ben Mankiewicz.
That's right. Thank you. So I think Larry, learning that Larry is a jackbag.
Right. He's insecure.
He's insecure. Maybe he'll turn out to be okay.
Oh, no. The end of episode 3, he's mad that A, Darlene is reading a book, and B, talking to another woman, and that's like classic abuser profile right there. Like those are not gonna fly.
And you hear her saying, just get in episode 3, she's like, okay, just let's go. Just can we get this over with? The part where you hit me?
Hit me,
right. Yeah.
I'll move on.
You're right. So I don't know why I had such high hopes for Larry.
He's insecure that she is managing his discipline process.
That's right.
And he's a powder keg and he'll explode in a very strange, cruel way.
And she's so much smarter than he is. You know. But again, here she in episode 3, it was a Tale of Two Cities, and now she's Mildred Pierce.
Yes, which HBO already has a history with.
That's right, sure, that's right, with Todd Haynes, right. So anyway, so that's basically, that's episode 2. So now I think we can sort of talk about episode 3.
Yeah.
And if it touches on 2.
Sure.
In some significant way. So as I said, I loved this. I really thought it was great. I all of a sudden care deeply about 3 or 4 characters.
And I also like the historical perspective that we're getting on stuff in terms of the progression of porn, Candy being smart enough to realize, look, if you can get this stuff legally in Denmark, eventually, we're not going to leave $1 on the table. We want that in on that action, And then also the whole thing about how the mob ran the gay bars in New York, because that was a thing.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's, in the terrible Stonewall movie from a couple years ago, they sort of touch on that, but that was totally a thing. And interesting bit of history, because I looked up Mickey Spillane on Google after they mentioned him in this episode. There is a seat in the New York Assembly that has been controlled by this one Democratic club for like centuries, apparently. And this year, a new Democratic club ran against them, run by a drag queen, and won.
Oh, fantastic.
And the guy they displaced from the assembly was Mickey Spillane Jr.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The Mickey Spillane.
Yeah, that Mickey Spillane, the Mike Hammer Mickey Spillane.
So that's right. So the mob ran gay bars in New York in the early 70s?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And that's why basically, like, the Stonewall raid was one of many examples where basically the cops would periodically raid as just part of the agreement of making sure that the mob was paying them for those places to exist in the first place, because there were these arcane laws about, like, you couldn't serve alcoholic beverages to gay men or something, or you couldn't have X number of men congregating without, like, a woman. So you have these dances where there'd be like one sort of bored woman in the middle and like 40 guys dancing around her.
And now you can't keep straight chicks out of gay bars.
I know.
I like the idea that you can't give serve drinks to gay men because it suggests their fear is, look, if you get a straight man drunk, we don't know what he's liable to.
You get those guys liquored up and it's anybody's
I don't
ball
know
game.
that that's an unfounded fear.
I'm not. It's just. But I like that moment with Vincent where he says to the bartender, hey, any of the, I don't know what pejorative term he used, but it was 1971. But he's like, any of those guys want to come back?
Yeah.
Only the one. Only the cool ones. Right. Yeah.
Right.
So-
And then there's the question about like maraschino cherries, and they're like, no, not for the clientele we're looking for.
Right. Yeah.
This isn't for tourists.
And so there was one thing that bothered me early on, and it was unavoidable given how they wanted the show to go, which was the James Franco's playing two people, and it was just so noticeable.
Yeah.
And by the third episode, that's not a factor to me
That's right.
anymore.
But it did take a while. I thought you'd mentioned that on a show we did together before I'd even seen the show. Maybe you'd seen it early or you'd just seen the promos,
Right,
but you brought it up. And so I don't know that would have bothered me, but you definitely made me think about it.
Glad I can ruin it for
No,
you.
but it did. It was, and the fact that they're so identical,
Right.
that sometimes it's not, right, but that scar turns out went away.
It went right away.
Right,
But
so-
they did it. I'm glad they had that in there in the first episode where they put a scar on his
But
head so you know the
But now
difference.
you have to, you determine who it is frequently by what they say.
And I think they're going to take that into consideration, and they're going to use that to their advantage as a
Yeah,
show,
totally. I would
because we already encountered it the first episode when Vince is walking down the street and is mistaken for Frankie,
And here-
and it becomes like really scary for
And
him.
Abby walks into the bar here in this episode. She's like, what is this?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that Franco does a decent job of letting you know which character is which. I think that it's
He does.
pretty
He
easy
is.
to tell.
And it's a
just the way
subtle
he carries-
delineation.
Right. It's the way he carries himself, the way that Frankie especially is such a fuck up. I mean, it's nobody's ever going to do what Tatiana Maslany has done, but
Right.
this one, it's solid.
I'd love to
like.
see Franco's a soccer mom.
Yeah, right. Maybe. I liked when Frankie starts like busting the vending machines open, for all to stay in the card game, and then turns out to be a real problem.
That's right.
And kind of had totally checked out about that. It's like, oh right, yeah, the people who own the vending machines and run that thing, like those guys are no angels.
It's a learn a lot about unions, learn a lot about the mob, learn a lot about New York City. Great scene there where we don't even know why. I imagine that it's the mob paying off the city, but they're like, okay, whatever it was between 4-1 and 4-3. By the way, the mere fact that I've been to New York 10,000 times in my life and don't refer to streets in that matter, I'm telling you, that's going to change right now.
Right.
I think it's on 4-3.
Well,
So
do we?
cool.
Does anybody know what the whole thing? I mean, I know that Lindsay ran for president, but do we know what the end game here is with that? Or?
Well, the end game is my dad crushed him and every other Democrat and got George McGovern the nomination, and George McGovern became a 2-term president and took us out of Vietnam.
Yes, hooray.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying, like, I don't know what the mini end game here is then, as far as like what the mobsters and the lawyers are even talking about. I don't know.
But also,
Well, I
and
guess
I
we're gonna
guess
find out. That's
but
the
also-
Right, no, I just didn't know if somebody knew from reality, since a lot of this stuff is based in reality.
But you see how right Maggie Gyllenhaal, Candy, is, because where she's saying it's going to come here, we're already seeing all of a sudden they've decided, hey, you know what? Let's not arrest people between 41st
Right.
and 43rd. Like, look, if something really weird happens or there's actual violence,
Right.
but we're going to let presumably the drug trade
Right.
and definitely the sex trade happen in the Deuce.
Amsterdam.
That's Amsterdam, right?
And is that about like scaring people off and bringing down property values, maybe, or is it about
maybe that's
something else
that's the mob's long-term plan, but I think it's that theoretically they're running girls, gambling, whatever. Because it wasn't the Deuce. I did some reading on the Deuce because I was like, why is it called the Deuce? By the way,
42nd Street, right?
Okay, but I mean, but why? So it's just the 2, or the 2 train, by the way, ran under Times Square, so that might have been it too. But they used to call 42nd 40 Deuce,
right?
And so that it's.
I thought the Deuce.
It's in a Beastie Boys song.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I always thought I spent a long time being like, I should look up what the Deuce is, but I was so involved in whatever the scene was.
I finally did it after. But so I mean, the mob's running girls. Obviously, anyway, some official decree was made.
As we're talking about the Deuce,
yeah.
HBO can never cancel this show. HBO
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's amazing. Yeah. So amazing.
But here's the question though: if the mob is somehow running the Pimps, which I don't know that we
doesn't seem like
we haven't really gotten that correlation.
I don't think.
I don't know that they are, but if they were, that makes the notion of Candy as a free agent even harder to believe. Like this character, as much as I like her and as much as I believe her as a sharp, smart, independent woman, I can't imagine the other pimps allowing her to exist. Just like you would think they would make an example of her and do something terrible so as to keep their own flock in line.
My hunch is that that's still coming. We're going to get that, and she's probably dealt with it before. And maybe it's that the mob doesn't run it, because if the mob does run it, you would imagine that they wouldn't stand for that. So now I'm intrigued by this idea of driving down property values so they can buy it up, and
that's reference. That dynamic is referenced by the mob in one scene.
I mean, we see blueprints, right?
Yeah, that and then whatever's happening with the lawyer, whatever they're signing, so something to that effect certainly is happening. Or the mob thinks maybe it's time we did run these girls. We know they run other stuff, but I imagine the mob thinking, hey, if we can get a 2-block by 4 avenue radius of where debauchery happens, that's prime. There's money to be made there for us, because it's not just women that's going on there. Right. It's going to be drugs.
Or it's maybe a way that, like, if the people involved know that these are the safe blocks, it draws them away from other areas of the city that Lindsay wants to be able to show off how cleaned up they are.
That's right. That could well be. It's almost certainly politics as he preps a run for president. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Whatever it is. That's the kind of political stuff that I love, and it's union, it's New York politics, it's cops.
I love the argument that the Cornell kid has with the guy who has the heart attack about where he speaks disparagingly about Cesar Chavez. He's like, no, he's a union guy.
Right. Oh, that was great. Right? That was so great, and that gets him a little bit. And he's like, I'll hand him my papers. Just shut up. Yeah, right. That guy, by the way, as everyone knows, from season 2 of The Wire, from the port season of The Wire. I mean, Alonso doesn't know.
Everyone?
Everyone.
You've not seen The Wire?
I haven't seen The Wire. It is a personal failing. I know. But it's
you don't know Frank Sabaka?
That's Frankie Sabaka. That's Chris Bauer. I mean, he's so likable in everything, and I don't know what it is exactly, but there is something about.
It's the shape of his face.
The shape of his face makes you think, this guy will help you move, right? He'll show up in his pickup and he's just going to help.
He will pick you up at the airport.
Yeah, and what is he going to want for it? Oh my God, you let him split a 6-pack with you? He'll be
He's the uncle that'll sneak you a beer.
That's
right.
Uncle Bobby, can I have a beer?
For the right reasons, he will bend the rules. Like that's what he's doing. He's the anti-hero, I guess.
Yeah, and that line, that great line where he's just, because they are using the wrong company's electrical fixtures. Yeah, I love that stuff. It's my kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like.
Do you often run through construction areas and knock down their?
I just mean anything that expose, like all these. This show is just one series of screaming to be narcissistic like President Trump, screaming at the television, Ben, you're not a man. Right? I mean, because this is filled with men, different kinds of men doing manly things.
That's not news to any of the rest of us.
Yeah, I'm sure it isn't.
This, the showrunner very much wraps his mind around like. This is not black and white. This is not good versus evil. This is people doing what they have to do to get what they need.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I like about the way that Franco portrays the brothers. It's very easy to do. Like this brother's a fuck up, and this brother has his shit together. But the brother Vince, who has his shit together, is still like in league with the mob. Yep. And while he's more motivated by some kind of moral code. he's
no
not
saint.
he's not a saint by any means.
Well, and I think one of the
And the other brother's not a total disaster either. Yeah.
He kind of gets on my nerves how he's like that guy is with the mob. Why are you breaking the freaking things in front of him? That's just so useless. But
I think one of the fascinating things about this is that you see these characters that really embody this sense of, I almost want to call it nihilism of the early 70s, like that Vietnam era, Nixon era, like, fuck it, right? It's just kind of like, fuck it, I just got to do whatever. Like, it's, you get to the Reagan era, and it's this hopeful future, right? That it's part of what got him elected. But at this point, it's you come out of the 60s after the Summer of Love, after Altamont, and it's a lot of like, man, fuck it, right? Like that's almost the slogan of everyone in at least this New York, and that attitude goes across the board. And so when Candy says, since when have we ever since when have Americans ever left money on the table, right? And it's this really cynical attitude.
I felt like
right?
and much of what you're saying, it feels like a little bit of what the era we've apparently entered into.
David Krumholtz, who
great performance,
almost unrecognizable in this, as the guy who is directing the movie, and then says, because Candy goes and watches this movie being filmed, and they're charging what, $40 a head to watch the dirty movie being filmed, and then he's like, yeah, we don't even have film in the camera. It's like,
it's like a brilliant.
It's just and then the fact that he's given direction to them, and he's like, I'll do it again. Like it's so great. It's so.
He's committed to the bits.
Totally. It's great.
But her like very quiet. Bursting into tears when that winds up being a dead end for her. It's just like,
I hope it's not a dead end because I want David.
No. I think clearly that she's going to do a workaround. But I'd be like, this show is so smart in that it plays moments like that at just the right human level without going too far. Also, going back to the thing about ripping out the electrical boxes, that's a thing where other people would feel like there was a need to set that up with some exposition as to what he's talking about or what it means. But we go through and we see a guy, he's ripping him out. He's talking about brand names. We know exactly what he means through the context and through the clues. And these guys trust us to get that.
Well, you will get that when you finally get.
I know The Wire. It's a Russian novel. I hear, yes.
But you're like jealous of him, kind of.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
I'm jealous. Like what Ebert would say about people who haven't seen The Third Man yet.
Yeah,
I'm jealous. No, I know. I will get to it. I will get to it.
I still have to watch the first and second Man.
Right.
That's right. Yeah. It's rare when the second sequel is the best one. Yeah.
The Fourth Man, however.
Godfather.
That's right. Yeah. So I don't know what else there is. Obviously, as we but watching these people.
The journalist. Or the whatever she is.
The writer. She's always very careful.
Yeah.
I write about. And so she got somebody, she had to pay $40 for it. That's obviously interesting. And just, seeing Darlene sort of grow through classic movies. We like that.
And that a white pimp used the term means of production.
Yeah. Right, the white pimp is funny. We like the cops. I do. Don Harvey, who's the guy we reckon was an 8-man out, among others, and then Lawrence Gilliard Jr., who was
D'Angelo Barksdale.
He was D'Angelo Barksdale on The Wire. Yeah.
Love it.
Sorry, Alonso.
I do remember that.
But did we get into Cece and the girl from Lori? Cece and Lori.
Oh, that was interesting too. Right. Yeah. And but he's perceptive, right? I know why you're going into the tunnel. You're afraid. And of course, I'd forgotten that, but he's right. Yeah.
What I love about the Pimps, and I say this all the time, is the stuff I love about Pimps. But what I love about the Pimps is they're all small business people.
That's right.
They all have their own.
And
yes, it's terrible, and I totally get it. It's a show, but they all are managing their own little business, and they all have their own little idiosyncrasies, and that's just like any business, except that they are pimps and they are running prostitutes in a lawless alley or a lawless major street in New York.
And I love how mad the guy in the car was.
It was a great scene.
That was a great scene. Like he got so mad that he had
for the principal.
It's the principal. Yeah. The principal.
It's so good. It's shaping up to be absolutely as good as you want it to be.
Yeah.
And just for David Simon, folks, besides The Wire, if you did not watch Show Me a Hero, go back and watch it on HBO Go, and then go watch me and Ben talking about it, but that was exceptional.
Yeah, Show Me a Hero was terrific. And speaking of Show Me a Hero, when David Krumholtz came in, I was like, oh my God, that's Oscar Isaac in a batsuit. I said out loud. No, it wasn't. It was David Krumholtz. He was great. And that scene, as far as performances, that Krumholtz Maggie Gyllenhaal scene was the pinnacle. Sort of.
And I can't wait since Life with Mikey.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even as a kid actor, he was always very charming.
Yeah,
was he in Newsy? Am I remembering that right?
I don't know, but he was definitely in the Santa Claus.
Yes, he was. That's right. And I'm dying to find out more about Big Mike.
Big Mike's super interesting.
There's a story there.
Yes.
Yeah, because also, again, and what a twist for the manner in which we were introduced to him.
Yeah.
On whatever drug that
whatever
was.
a bomber is.
Right, and then obviously he's going to be Earth's greatest bouncer.
That's
where we're headed. All right, good stuff, man. I love this episode. Now I love this show.